Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we will be starting a new series where we will learn about low level system design. This is a very important topic, and if you are a mid level engineer, this is the skill that separates coders from actual engineers. So let us see and let us begin the series, and I hope that it will help you out. So today we know how to code, but can we design the internal structure of an application so that it is scalable, testable, and maintainable for a team of 50 developers? This is where having good knowledge about low level system design can help us. So in this first video, we will draw a clear line between HLD and LLD and see how both things are different, and then we will have a clear understanding of the same. So when we talk about HLD or high level system design, the focus is at a macro level, that is the overall architecture. But when we talk about LLD or low level design, the focus is at a micro level, that is focusing on individual components. So think of HLD like building a city. So let's say we are building a city, and inside the city we say that hey, we will have a park here, and we will have a hospital here, and we will have a school here, and we will have a residential area here. This talks about the overall architecture of how the city will look like and how will the structure be, and you can think of this as high level design. When we come to low level design, we start saying that hey, when I'm building a park here, how will the park look like? What will be the width of the park? What will be the length of the park? And so on. The internal details about each component. Decisions include where to put the main components, and in terms of technical systems, when we talk about high level design, we are talking in terms of microservices, caching, load balancing, API design, monitoring, etc. And when we talk about low level design in terms of technical systems, we think in terms of classes, objects, what design patterns will be used, and what principles will be used. For example, solid principles, which we will take a look at later. So when we are talking about low level design, we are not talking about databases or servers. Rather, we are talking about the in-memory object model for a single application component like a parking lot or a vending system. Now let's take a look at the three phases of low-level design. So the first phase is requirement analysis. The next one is entity identification, and the third phase applying patterns and principles. So in the first phase, we understand what the requirement is. Then we use that understanding to map out the various entities, attributes, and relationships in the system. And then using that mind map, we start applying the standard design patterns and principles to make a solid. Now let us talk more about each phase. So the first one is requirement analysis. When we talk about requirement analysis, we have two things in mind. One is functional requirements and one is non-functional requirements. Functional requirements talk about what a system must do. Non-functional requirements talk about how the system should be. For example, the quality, whether we want extensible code, whether we want thread safe implementations, and all that. So low level design takes care of this part. When we say low level design, we are not talking about functional requirements. Rather, we are more concerned about how the system would behave. The next phase is entity identification. So in this phase, what we do is we try to extract the nouns in the system, and then try to map it to entities. For example, in a parking lot system, the nouns would be parking lot, ticket, etc. After we have identified the nouns, which we call it as entities, we try to describe properties for these nouns, which in technical terms we call it as attributes. For example, ticket as start time. So these attributes are adding more properties and defining the nouns or the entities. So this is the first step, and this is the second step. Once we have proper properties defined for the nouns, that is all our entities have attributes, we try to create model relationships. What this means that we try to create relationships between various entities. For example, a ticket can have many seats. So this is a one-to-many relationship. So to recap, the three phases of providing a low-level design solution. The first is requirement analysis, where we focus on non-functional requirements. Then, using the understanding gained in this phase, we try to extract the nouns, properties, and the model relationships in a system. The third is, once we have the entities, attributes, and the relationships, we start applying the design patterns and principles, which we will see in the upcoming videos. In this section, we decide which solid principles do we emphasize first. For example, single responsibility principle or open close principle. We will see all these things, and also what design patterns suit our requirements based on the entities, attributes, and the relationships. So basically, our non-functional requirements are converted into a low-level design by applying the design patterns and principles. Now let us take a look at a very basic question: why low-level design matters? So this isn't about writing perfect working code. Rather, this is about designing code that is extensible. Here we ask, can we add a new feature to the code without changing the existing code? Designing code that is maintainable, that is done by SRP or single responsibility principle. where we ask that is the logic cleanly separated, and then designing code that is testable, which is asked by DIP, which says are the components decoupled enough to test him independently. Okay, so this is what proper understanding of low level design promotes. It provides us the tools to think structurally and strategically, not just procedurally. Okay, so let us summarize the video. And today we saw what is low level design actually and how it is different from high level design. So low level design is all about designing the internal robust skeleton for your application, right, using classes, objects and patterns. And this playlist or this tutorial series will definitely help you understand the nuances of low level system design. And in the next video we will see and learn about single responsibility principle. So if you like this video and if this helped you, please like and subscribe to the channel, and please share it with the people who you might think would benefit from this video. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.